Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I know the recipients thank you for coming out to witness this program.
I know.
So, there seems to be some music.
Turn it off.
Oh. All right, we're going to work on that music. I think all of you have heard me say it, or most of you have heard me say it before, but I'll say it again. This is my favorite event of the year because it's really not only a celebration of the best writing of the year, but a celebration of all the good writing that comes out of this program. And I've said it before as well that what you get tonight is a glimpse of the literary future, and that's no exaggeration given the record of accomplishment of our alums. I think we're at, what, 65 books and counting now? More? More like 80? Yes. Who can keep up? And most of those 80, the authors of those 80 books stood up here at this podium to receive one of these awards, I'm happy to say. And so I'm not exaggerating when I say you get a chance to, a glimpse of the future. We're going to pass out, Denise is going to, or Vanna, should I say, is going to, yeah, is going to help pass out the awards this evening, and as is our tradition, you'll get an empty envelope, or actually you get a nice letter of congratulations and announcement of your award suitable for framing, but the check, as they say, is always in the mail. We do pay cash, or we pay prizes in American money for this, and we're going to start this evening with the Poetry Awards. The judge was John Hudgen. He's the visiting assistant professor of English at Assumption College, and he also teaches at Mount Wachusett Community College in the Worcester Art Museum. He's the author. I've been working it. He's the author of Heaven and Earth Holding Company, Grace, winner of the 2005 AWP Donald Hall Prize in Poetry, In My Father's House, that won the 1993 Bluestem Award, and Bread Without Sorrow, winner of the 2002 Balcones Poetry Prize. He's won the Groyer Prize for Poetry as well, and Arvon Foundation Award, the Yankee Magazine Award for Poetry, and among others. Of the undergraduate, and just the winners are going to read tonight, so you know, but we want to recognize the runners-up in various categories. In the undergraduate runner-up category of that awardee, John says, "I love this poem. There's a singular voice here, clipped and knowing and infinitely smart and sad. There's an edginess, a world weariness, and an originality that should spawn even stronger writing in the future. What a tightly made work. This poet knows the score, counts the house, and speaks about love with a clarity and wisdom far beyond her years." He speaks of Melanie Martinez. Her poem is called Boondocks. Melanie, are you here? And we keep popping up and down, so we'll do the undergraduate winner now. And of that writer, John says, "This young writer seems to possess something eternal. On the one hand, representing the steady stereotype of the anguished writer who floated to his solitude with his tattered and tethered journal beneath the madness of the moonlight and the sanity of the stars, yet somehow making it all seem fresh again. He has that fire inside, that energy, that voices that has come to own him and demand to be expressed. This poet simply can't help it. It's in him. He has that ineffable gift and curse that other young writers look for and cannot find, that makes it impossible not to write." He speaks of the poem Franz, and the author is Valeria Montevallo.
very nervous right now. Okay, so this poem is called Franz, and it's a fictional story about Franz Kafka kind of disappearing from the world for centuries and coming back and realizing that art had died and he was the only one that could revive it. So this is Franz. Walking in a crowd of masked faces, cloaked with feather-brained stresses and ghostly dreams, he floated to his solitude and yelled, "Books are a narcotic," as he got high off of the words he couldn't speak. He wrote them down in the desolate leaves of his tattered and tethered journal, as his lungs coughed out his arcane angst, and his poverty-stricken heart fractured the twine between his pirated smile and treasured tears. Refusing to evade his isolation with drugs, he shot up with the ideas of Nietzsche and Darwin and Spinoza. Inhaling the philosophies of divine social atheists, his blood thinned with the desire to write. But his pen could only hemorrhage broken thoughts and cursory sentiments because all language is but a poor translation. His silent soul screamed out for understanding beneath the madness of the moonlight and the sanity of the stars, but the thieves of the night had stolen the enlightenment of the suffering skies and crying clouds. So with one hand to the gods and one hand to his pages, he decoded archaic prophecies of man's melancholy, enshrouding his energies in leather-bound books of love and tragedy. And centuries later, when Helios knocked on his window, beckoning him to crawl out from the cavern of his distressed senses and his cultured misconceptions, he found for a moment that the earth no longer wept and hearts no longer broke. Beneath the changing tides of the world he had abandoned, the monsters of the sea had procured the answers he longed to know, as day by day by day he withered, withdrew, and wailed, propagating the madness that framed the reflection of his undying love for the dying arts. He crept through the cracks of the years that had passed and saw for a moment a world without tears and hearts without fears, because the sun never lies and the truth is always light. Yet as clarity rushed through his fallen fourth eye, he saw that art had indeed perished and dug its grave like uncharted ideology in phonic battle against orthodox soldiers. And there it dwelled, in the lurid darkness of a world taken over by the barbarians of the Oman. Falling to his knees, his soul wept with fatal fury, flooding the oceans and deserts and valleys and skies. Alone in a realm inhabited by starving vampires lusting for artistic blood, his needles rusted and his metaphors collapsed, because in this brave new world, beneath towers of free enterprise and captive white collars, money bought happiness and sold it to the devil for the price of a promise not even an angel could keep. He couldn't live in a realm stripped of color, because black and white only left him feeling standard shades of gray. Restlessly, he endeavored to paint the walls of the world with the weight of his words, but one hand wasn't enough to cast revolutionary dreams in the souls of broken slaves. With droplets of hope on the crest of each eyelash, Athena sailed down from the cerulean heavens, followed by awakened specters of artists and originators, of thinkers and believers, of dreamers and creators, of masters and drinkers, of lovers and fighters, of scholars and philosophers, of musicians and players, of truth and darers. And hand to hand they danced atop the graves of murdered ideas and vanished sentiments, until they all awoke from death and inhaled the redolence of immortal life. The pillars of humanity and the foundations of love breathed again, and amongst the ghosts and the angels and the music and the trees, he professed his devotion to the journal that kept him alive throughout maddening times. And though the hourglass ticks and memories fade, although wrinkles appear and hairs turn gray, his once poor heart found wealth in seraphic smiles and celestial nights, and in the movement of language and in the beauty of thought, until he wept no more and he bled no more, and beneath the saintly sunset of his callous life, he got high off of the words he could finally speak. Thank you.
And now, of the graduate runner-up, John Hodgson says, "This poet knows what so many poets forget in their urge to tell everything that has ever happened to them. This poet knows what not to say, knows how to hold mystery in every line. This poet never overstates, trusts what is shared to open into its own invisible gnashing of something kept behind a fence, glittering itself to pieces. This poet knows that in all of us, inside our chests, there is a skeleton light." He read the poems Lucifer, Ohio's Finest, and I Like Fish, and they were written by Patrick Norris. Of the winner in the graduate poetry division, John Hodgins says, "This is an extraordinary poem, instantly publishable in virtually any literary magazine in the country. The portrait of the zeitgeist, this cultural moment in that petal-eyed balladic hour, is simply striking. Real command and maturity here, to see in that twilight hour, which may signal either the twilight or the transcendence of our country itself, a vision so filled with learning and insight that it makes us all wish to review our own capacities, to see the thing that no one sees except writers. This clear-eyed poet sees us for who we really are and says it with the strength and the control and heart of a true artist." The poem is Maid Hour, as in maiden, and the author is Julio Machado.
How's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? This poem is called Maid Hour. In that petal-eyed balladic hour, the maids come out to sweep the dust of sunlight from the streets of Key Biscayne. You wait at the bus stops, whispering so that no one hears if you speak at all, or you stand in the corners, ringing twilight in with your cell phones and bones like old chimes calling. Or walk the loneliness out of other people's dogs, hands tight as charioteers on fistfuls of leashes. Perhaps one among you claims the old blood, the line of Atahualpa unbroken. That one stands apart, peering at the high-home traffic swinging past, while the wind presses dust against the not-quite glass of the bus stop, making for a moment the face of Mary or Nixon if someone will just see. This is not your hour. This is the hour for falling in the swing of things, the pendulum of things, the collective work of a people, making and unmaking in that order ceaselessly for centuries and centuries, for the single-minded attitude of motion that baked the moon with the breath of rockets, with audacity planned red, white, and blue cities on that pocked and empty, windswept, glacial face, with no purpose but to say, we lived. And it's an hour for living, for the cataloging and hiding of secrets, for that one among you, whose name may be something like, but not precisely, America, to put away that blood, to cease with your body tilted just so, that reminding, that buzzing, purposeless ring of days gone, of Atahualpa pressing a hand to the wall and saying, I will pile the gold to here if you release me, and then dying, because he didn't know the rest, the crucial part, which is this: there's no releasing the sun from its heavenly rack. We may only trace the trajectory of shadows, as by hours they divide our cupboards, our hallways and rugs into fractions, now half, now a quarter, now fully in shadow.
Wow.